people of the world! Do you know what time it is? It's music time. We are so pumped up to the jam to have you with us. I am Morgan Mitchell, and with me as always is Tanner Grover.
What's up, Morgan, and what's up, universe? You are indeed tuning into a podcast where two friends who love music, yet have virtually no musical acumen, take a deep dive into the vibes that really make us jive.
That's right, because if there's anything that unites us all, it's music. An audible sensation. To live without it is simply deprivation. So, we're here to hear and to share a little slice of a subject that gives us life.
Tick-tock, tick-tock. Are y'all ready to rock? Tell me, friends, what time is it on your clock?
It's music time! Hello, and welcome to the It's Music Time podcast. My name is Morgan Mitchell.
And I am Tanner Grover, and this is what we do. And today we are doing it with
Jon McCormack.
Hello, world.
Hello, universe, and hello,
yes.
Jon. We are
hello,
so
Tanner and Morgan.
Excited you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. What a delight.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to get into you, Jon, and all your endeavors. But before we do that, we are going to play a little game. Are you willing to play with us?
I'm in.
Super.
All right. So, Jon, the name of this game, because you are the mastermind, the purveyor of this incredible cover band called the Wheel of Awesome. And so, we know that you're pretty used to spinning things. So Today we're going to play a little game called Hey, Mr. DJ, featuring trivia with two other guys who know a little bit about spinning things. Kasem and Ryan Seacrest. So
nice.
The answer to these 5 questions that you're about to take part in, the answer will either be Kasem or Ryan Seacrest. So are you ready to play Hey, Mr. DJ?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
All right, here we go. Question numero uno. Which DJ was a linesman on their high school football team? Was it Kasem or Ryan Seacrest?
I am going to go with Kasem.
Very close. It was Seacrest. It was Seacrest.
Okay. We're off to a bad start, everyone.
No, listen, there's no losing in this game. Tanner, number 2.
Number 2, which DJ is an animal rights activist and also a strict vegetarian? Is it Kasem or Ryan Seacrest?
Wow. Gonna go with Kasem.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Did you know this? So Kasem, also a famous voice actor, insisted that the character of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo also be a vegetarian. That's how passionate he is.
Really?
That's cool. My wife is a vegetarian. My daughter used to own a vegan restaurant, so that hits close to home.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey.
See, Kasem, way to go, guy. Number 3, which DJ has an appreciation for the craftsmanship of watchmaking and has an excessive and extensive collection of luxurious timepieces? Was it Kasem or Ryan Seacrest?
That sounds very Seacrest to me.
That is so Seacrest.
Yes, it's
well
very Seacrest.
Done. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Number 4.
Number 4, which DJ appeared in 2 episodes of the landmark teen comedy Saved by the Bell? Was it Kasem or Ryan Seacrest?
Ooh. That's a tough one, but I'm going to go with good old Casey.
It was.
Correct.
Yes. All right, we're picking up steam.
Well done. Number 5. Which DJ is a shark attack survivor, having once been bitten by a small shark? Was it Seacrest himself or was it our friend Kasem?
Well, I really have no idea, but since C is in his name, I'm going with Seacrest.
Correct!
Wow,
Nice.
well done. Well
Incredible.
Done, John.
Okay, you definitely smashed this game. Well done.
Thanks.
All right, so the second segment of our sort of introduction to the show, I'm going to hand over to Tan Man over here.
Sure. So one thing we like to do with all of our guests, John, is we like to illuminate them on the #1 song on the Billboard charts the day they were born. So you came into our lives on June 8th, 1971. Do you have any idea what the #1 song was on the day you were born?
And I did actually look this up one time and I forgot. So no, I don't.
Well, this might spark something in that old memory of yours. It was Want Ads by Honeycomb.
Okay. Nope. Don't remember that one.
It's a jam.
It's such a good song. We were just listening to it. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Want Ads.
Yep, Want Ads by Honeycomb.
Okay. Maybe I didn't look that up because that doesn't even sound close. All right.
Yeah, it was a real good one. Did you have a good birthday this summer?
I did. I had a great birthday.
Super. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, I'm getting to the age though where I pretend it's not my birthday.
Sure. Every day could be your
no, you're leveling up, man. You're treating it like a video game.
Leveling
up.
Thank you, Tanner. I like that energy.
That's great. Beautiful. That is it. So we're going to talk a little bit about all the incredibly awesome endeavors that you've been up to, what you're up to now. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and just dive into your bio. Just talk about a lot of the awesomeness that that is afoot for you. Does that sound good?
Sure. Fire away.
Awesome. So our friend Jon here is a Seacoast, New Hampshire-based singer, guitarist, and songwriter who has written and performed with dozens of area original and cover bands over the last 30 years. Leveling up! He first left his mark on the Seacoast, New Hampshire scene with 90s rap, rock, folk unit, Fly Spinach Fly, great name,
Thanks.
Which he formed in his basement as a teen. Hell yeah. His band went on to be selected as one of MTV's top 5 unsigned bands in the country and shared the stage with acts such as the Ramones, De La Soul, and Cypress Hill. Damn, so cool.
Fun stuff.
The band was later featured in the 2012 documentary In Danger of Being Discovered, which won Best Documentary Film in the New Hampshire Film Festival with Jon as the co-producer. Very cool. He has also written and released albums of original music with Starch, Museum of Science, Order of Thieves, Bitter Pill, Wizzardess, and Paintbox. Jon has also been the guitarist in Billy Butler and Dane Lehman's The Gay Bride of Frankenstein since its 2008 inception and has followed that production from New Hampshire to off-Broadway and back. Jon's 2018 solo album Paintbox is an album of 16 songs, originally inspired by the names of paint colors. That is so fascinating to me. I got to hear more about that.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you all about it.
Oh, my gosh. The songs then evolved into a rock opera theatrical production, which had a highly successful run of shows at the Players Ring in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. These days, Jon plays most often with his cover band, The Wheel of Awesome, which decides what to play by spinning a large game show style wheel and then choosing a song from whatever category it lands on. He also still makes original music with his band Museum of Science, which just released its 3rd studio album, Deep Fakes and Data Mines, this past summer. Jon McCormack, welcome to It's Music Time. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I feel so welcome. Thank you.
Woohoo!
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Jon, I think we just want to take a minute to throw it to you and talk a little bit about your background. You've got this extensive career. You can maybe touch upon the early recognition through the MTV unsigned bands and touring with the likes of some iconic groups. The Ramones, De La Soul, Cypress Hill, like those songs were, part of my childhood. And I'm sure many of the listeners of this podcast So
Yeah.
what was that like, and how did you kind of evolve from there?
Well, that was an interesting thing. It was sort of the first band I ever started when I was, I mean, it was real. I think it was like the summer between high school and college. And some friends and I were like, we should start a band. And we did. And it kind of just blew up. It was like right place, right time. This was early 90s, which was a cool time because it was kind of like the more eclectic, the better. During that time, you had everybody kind of mishmash. There was a lot of hyphen bands like punk ska, rap rock, like it was the hyphen era, and you could kind of do whatever you wanted. It was great. So that band, we ended up, we literally set our cassette to MTV, and we got into this unsigned band contest, and we won for the Northeast region, and then they flew us down to Daytona for their big spring break thing, which was wild because here I am in my dorm room. I blew off my midterms to go down there and play. I'm like, I'm not coming back here. I'm going to be a rock star,
Yeah.
And I met, it was just wild. It was such a time. We met O.J. Simpson and Jean-Claude Van Damme was there, and just like all these weird celebrities. And and then all of a sudden we were back in New Hampshire and nothing really happened. But it was nothing really came out of that. But we did hook up with a booking agency who connected us with big shows in the area like Cypress Hill and Queen Latifah and the Ramones, which was crazy to play with the Ramones. It was so much fun. But the thing about that band was I was so young, and it was kind of my first band. I really didn't. I knew it was fun, but I didn't know really what a big deal that was. Like I had no sense of perspective or having, what it's like to pay your dues, because it was just, it was a blessing and a curse because it was amazing. But at the same, then when it ended, I was just like, oh, this doesn't usually happen. This kind of success out of the gate, and this kind of, usually you work a little harder to get there. Not that it was all easy, but you know what I mean? It doesn't usually. Yeah. So then I had to kind of go pay my dues and work on these other projects and started writing songs and singing more and kind of branching out from there. And it's been amazing. Like at this point in my life, I mean, I try to honestly channel the feeling that I used to get. Like I have two older sisters, like 8 and 10 years older. So I kind of had 3 moms, and I was always on stage for them. Like they would kind of dress me up and wind me up and put on some music and just let me go. And that's sort of the feeling. And it's funny because they still come to my shows. Aww. And that's the feeling that I just try to channel when I'm playing.
I love that so much.
Through any of the other, whatever projects. So
totally.
Yeah. So that was kind of the early arc of things. And from there, I started a band called Starch, which was very sort of Foo Fighters adjacent, I would say.
Yeah.
Again, of its time. And then along the way, I started this cover band called Camarijuana, doing 80s hair metal covers. We do the wigs and the spandex, and we're still doing it like 20 years later. It started as a joke at a Christmas party, but it was just so much fun that it just kind of blew up.
Adore.
Yeah, we still do that once in a while. We do Poison and Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and all that fun stuff. It's amazing because, you start playing that music and people, it's like a license for people to just lose their minds. It's great. Totally. Yeah. Then along the way came Museum of Science, which we were talking about before the intro. That's a super fun band. That band started with, some guys I had been playing with for a long time who are also my 2 best friends in the whole world, Jamie Perkins and Sean LaRose. And it started when this was pre-do not call list. Sean was getting all these telemarketer calls, and he decided to just start recording them. So he would record himself just kind of messing with these telemarketers, and then we would take snippets of that and put them over beats, and then that evolved into us playing over the beats and we'd create these music beds with these telemarketers being sort of tortured, and that just led to a whole vibe and a whole band that to this day, I mean, we just put out an album this summer, and it's an anything goes kind of project. Like, it's so fun. It's like you want to create a beat and then just like drop a bunch of glass, and the sound of it breaking becomes the backbeat. Like, sure, that's awesome. Fine. Great, whatever works. Yeah, I'm trying to think of all these other projects. Wizzardess is like this super psychedelic stoner metal heavy project. We have an album that we made pre-COVID and then never released, and so at some point we're going to get that out there. And Paintbox, I think we talked about a little bit. Paintbox was this really fun. I was kind of in like an in-between projects kind of phase, and I was at the hardware store looking for paint to paint my office. Like, you never know where inspiration is going to creep up on you, right? And I found this paints. I'm pulling these paint swatches, and there's one called French Chocolate. And I'm like, I don't love this color, but that name. So I went home and wrote a song called French Chocolate. And then there was Gypsy Teal. I'm like, I also don't love that color, but that name is great. And I wrote Gypsy Teal. So then I knew I was onto something. Went back to the hardware store, started grabbing up all the paint swatches, and came up with 16 of these different songs, all based on not even so much the colors, but the names of the paint.
Wow.
There's Deep Earth, there's Lime Candy, there's Pepperberry. It became a whole thing. So that was a super fun project, and that kind of evolved into I started to see like this through line in the songs, and I wrote a script around it, and it became this rock opera.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was a ton of work, and we put the show up at a theater in Portsmouth called the Players Ring, and it was really successful, but it was a lot. Like, that was a lot. I officially bit off more than I could chew, but it went well. And thanks to my buddy Billy Butler, I've played in his rock musical called Gay Bride of Frankenstein since 2008. That's kind of what gave me otherwise I never would have even thought to do like a theatrical thing, but he kind of taught me a lot about the through line between music and theater, and that's where that came from. Wow. So I feel like I'm talking a lot.
You're perfect. I mean, there's so much to say. Like, we're kind of hanging on every word over here. What strikes me, and then I'll hand it back over to you, Tanner, is like the fact that you have given yourself, whether it's you've given yourself permission or it's just the way that you interact with the world, is that you've been able to engage with your creative process, engage with your creative gifts, engage with your ability to make music and collaborate with people in this very broad way that I think a lot of artists, in my experience, sometimes don't fully give themselves that breadth or depth to say, you know what, I'm going to make like this completely different project over here. I'm going to swing over here and kind of satiate this curiosity that I have about these paints, and like just allowing yourself. I just am so enamored with how rich your process is, because partly because, at least the way I receive it, you're giving yourself all of this space to let the world imprint itself upon you, and then responding to it in like such a deep and multi-dimensional way. That's how I receive what you're saying anyway. And it's just really striking and inspiring to me to think that you as a musician, but also, as a playwright, as a lyricist, as all of these things, that you've been able to create in a way that feels fulfilling and fun, like really fun. And still, you seem, again, the way I'm seeing this, you seem to still be connected to that kind of sparkle that is creativity and sort of the mystery of it in a way that is sometimes kind of rare to encounter in someone. So I guess I want to just lift that up and congratulate you, and also just say, wow, like what prolific creator you are. How cool.
Well, thank you. That's really, really sweet, and I appreciate that. And I think, it dawned on me long ago, like probably back in the early days with Fly Spinach Fly, that like I was going to either have to pursue this, as a career monetarily. I mean, it would probably benefit me as a career musician to be more focused and just kind of do one thing and do it super well and be known for that. But I just kind of realized, like, that's not me. Like, I kind of have to do multiple things and follow multiple threads where they go and see where it takes me, because, and And I sort of made a decision a long time ago, like, all right, I'm going to have a day job and not necessarily have to do music for money. And I think that's sort of a fascinating thing for me, the intersection where art and commerce meet. You know, you have to make a living. So, but then when you're trying, every time in my life I've tried to make music for money or to make a living, it just, for me personally, I know there's a lot of people that can do it, but it does take some of the fun out of it. And it does sort of taint what you're trying to do creatively. Excuse me. So I try to just free myself from that. And I think that's part of why I've been able to pursue all these different avenues.
So good.
Sure. And obviously, I mean, I can just tell from the way you speak about it how fulfilled you seem to be, you know, which is awesome.
It's all illusion, Tanner.
It's all illusion. Well, you know, from one project to the next, it's funny. Even I would say, from what I'm hearing, at ground zero with your first band, Fly Spinach Fly, how that was this hybrid of, you know, rap, rock, funk.
Yeah.
Like, even then, you had this kind of approach of like, we're going to dabble a little here, we're going to dabble a little there, and, you know, free yourself from that structured way of doing one thing all the time. And that, to me, is something that's been consistent throughout your career, where you're just always doing new things. And, you know, one thing that I definitely want to touch upon, because you're still currently active with it, is the Wheel of Awesome.
Yes.
And like that, you know, I've seen the wheel, I've seen the little promo video you sent out. And
so much fun.
Yeah, it's a play on the Wheel of Fortune, with a musical spin to it.
Yep.
And now I would just imagine like the degree of like unpredictability in those shows. It's got to be both thrilling, but also probably somewhat intimidating, because you never know what you're going to get. So maybe can you talk a little bit about the development of that idea, and you know, kind of illuminate our listeners on, you know, if they were to go see the Wheel of Awesome, what would they expect from a show like that?
It's funny because, and I'm glad you watched the video, because it's one thing to describe it. It's one of those things where you describe it and people kind of go, huh, that sounds cool. But you show them the video and about 5 seconds in, they're like, oh, I get this. I totally get this. You have to sort of see it. And yeah, it is for me, like I've always written original music and played original music, but I'm certainly not opposed to playing cover music, clearly, because Marijuana is a cover band and the Wheel of Awesome is a cover band. But I kind of need, for me personally, if I'm going to play cover music, I need to have sort of a third dimension, a shtick kind of thing. You know? So like Marijuana, we do the 80s hair metal thing, and we kind of dress up in wigs and spandex and pretend to be these characters from the 80s. And then with the Wheel of Awesome, I was like, okay, what's a different take on this? And I certainly didn't invent the wheel idea. I think, I mean, you see those things everywhere, the little game show wheels, but I think it was Elvis Costello many years ago did a tour where he had a big wheel on stage with all of his songs, and he would spin it, and whatever song it landed on, they would play that song. But it was all from his catalog. A cool idea. And so the first version of it, I built in my basement out of foam and drum parts, and somehow managed to get it to work. And it is super unpredictable and super fun. We kind of realized early on, like we have a Beatles category, a Stones category, an 80s category, a 2000s category. We have Girl Power, which is all female artists. We have Wild Card, which is like we just kind of do whatever we want. We might make up a song on the spot or tell a joke, like who knows. So, and we have one category called Shots and Beer, which is it's the one original song that we actually wrote. It's this very short sort of German style drinking song that we play, and then everybody drinks. So it works well in the bar setting. And it's just fun because we don't know what's going to happen. Like we spin the wheel. Sometimes, occasionally we'll have a guest come up and spin the wheel. We don't know where it's going to land. It could land on Prince 5 times in a row. We don't know. And we just have to know a lot of songs and be ready to go. But we can retire categories. We have more categories than what you see on the wheel. So if we kind of deplete David Bowie, we can take that one down and replace it with, Dance Party or something like that.
Sweet.
So it's a fun party vibe, and it's engaging. To me, that's what it comes back to. It's engaging. It's engaging for us because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what we're going to play next, and it's a mixed bag every night. We're not just playing the same thing, and It's engaging for people because you watch people kind of walk in and they see this big wheel lit up, and they're like, "What the heck is that?" And they're leaning in to see what's going on, and they're engaged. So it's cool.
So smart. So smart.
It's fun.
Love it.
That's
It
awesome.
goes back to fun. Thanks. And I have to credit, so we started it at a club in Dover called Furies, and Eric, the guy who owns the club, we were like scrounging around for a name. I'm like, can't call it the Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of, and he goes, awesome, Wheel of Awesome. I'm like, okay, that's it.
That's it. So good. Oh my God.
Yeah, really fun.
The Wheel of Awesome. All right. Well, we got to get to a pub or something where you're performing, because this sounds way too fun to miss out on a live experience. Do you perform mostly in the New Hampshire area? We
are in southern New Hampshire, southern Maine. It's kind of where we're based. We do weddings and parties. Like we played a big wedding out on an island off the coast of Portland this summer.
Cool.
We do some private parties and events, but a lot of microbreweries have us. It's very much like imagine any place where you'd go and they'd have like trivia night, because that's the thing It's also like, this is a group of guys that I've been playing with forever. Like I've known these guys for 25, 30 years, and so we have this sort of loose, jokey Rat Pack Vegas kind of vibe about it. We're not taking it too seriously. Like we'll tell jokes between songs, or we'll kind of tease each other, and it's fun. It's just a fun time.
And you've also you've got your third album that came out with Museum of Science.
Yes.
You want to touch a little bit upon that project, because that's going to be part of our encore segment at the end of this episode. Every episode we try to feature a song from our guests, and we're going to be hearing White Zinfandel. But just talk a little bit about the new album.
Yeah, Deep Fakes and Data Mines. So that project started, like we put the first album out in I think 2001, and then another one in maybe 2008, and it's just sort of this like. It's I don't know if you've ever been involved in a project. It's almost more like an excuse to hang with your friends than anything else.
This
is right. So it's this last album. It's kind of like, remember when Guns N' Roses put out that album Chinese Democracy, and it took them like 18 years to do it. That's what this is. It took us. We started this album, I want to say, in like 2008 or something, and there are tracks on there that go back. No one cares about us, but there's some of this stuff goes back, and we look at the file dates, and we're like, oh my God, we recorded that in 2012. We recorded this, and then we'll just pick it up where we left off, and we finally, after just kind of like picking away at it and taking our time with it, got to a point where we're like, I think this is done. I think this is finally done. So we put it all together and put it out, and it's a lot of tracks. There's like 24 tracks. So we're releasing them. Actually, if you go on Spotify, we call them exhibits because it's Museum of Science. So the first exhibit came out this summer. It's 5 songs. The second exhibit is coming out on the 27th. So I don't know when this podcast hits, but that's on the 27th, if you look on Spotify, there will now be 2 exhibits from the new album,
really,
with 3 more to follow.
So good.
Awesome. That's great, man.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah, I had a chance to listen to White Zinfandel, and I don't know, I got Beastie Boys vibes.
Very Beastie Boys.
Yeah, and we miss the Beastie Boys, so I'm glad that you're here to fill that gap.
Thanks. Well, that goes. So that's the thread that connects this project back to Fly Spinach Fly, because one of the guys on that song, Bill X, was in Fly Spinach Fly with me, and he was one of the rappers in that band, and that was a band that was of the early 90s. We were of that time. So we definitely were like, okay, let's get Bill on this song and let's completely lean into the instead of like trying to pretend we're not doing the Beastie Boys, let's just lean into it and like give it that sound almost as much as we can, because why not?
Why not? I love it.
But it's that kind of super eclectic project where, like, all the other tracks don't really sound like that. There might be an instrumental after that, and then there might be, you know what I mean? So they're all over the map, but it's fun.
Which I love, you know, again, like, I just think you're such a brilliant creator, and that you're just like allowing yourself to be prolific, to do all these different things, like to not be narrowed into, I think, I don't know if it's a now thing or if it's an always thing, but I think as an artist, there can be such a tendency to sort of pick an aesthetic or pick a mood or pick a sound and stick to it, because somehow it feels like listeners need that consistency, or that the project needs the consistency of tone or something to really make it adhere to itself. But to a certain degree, like, you're the artist, you're the creators, you get to decide. And I love that you're making these eclectic pieces, especially because it's an artist exhibit. It's an exhibit. Like, there's all kinds of stuff in a museum. You never know what you're going to find.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. And I mean, I do think that, you know, like I touched on it earlier, I think from a marketing and business standpoint, it's probably much better to stick with one thing and become known for that. And it's maybe confusing to people to you know, to be darting in all these different directions, but I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it for myself.
Totally.
You know, and I feel like if other people enjoy it, that makes me super happy. But ultimately, you have to, for art to be pure and for music to be pure, you have to do what you enjoy. Totally. So I'm just trying to do that. And apparently my tastes and what I enjoy are very, very eclectic.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, I think it's good for listeners and like receivership of art to expand our minds in terms of what we can receive as art from one artist. You know, I think there's a lot of people who are exploring, you know, cross genre or questioning genre in general. And so like, I think that it's really extraordinary what you're doing. And thank you for being a model of like a brave creator who's making things that are, you know, authentic to you, and take it or leave it. But like, I'm happy, and you're making extremely gorgeous things because you're not afraid that it's got to fit into a certain box. So,
no, well, thank you. That's very kind.
It's on.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. And I don't, again, it's just, I'm following my nose. I'm not trying to be that. I am that. And I appreciate you putting it that way, because it's, you know, when you don't, someone has to step back and hold up that mirror and say, here, this is what you're doing. This is what this looks like. And you're like, wow, you're right. But I don't even think of it that way, because I'm just doing it.
Yeah, totally. You know? I think of, I mean, it was the biopic Bohemian Rhapsody about Queen. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the scene where they're like playing their album for the person who's like the kind of producer, director, whatever. And they're like, what is this? Like, what? And they're like, it's poetry. Like, for the love of God, like, it's poetry. They're like, Abadia, what? They're like, it's poetry. Relax. Like, we're making art, you know?
Yep. No, I get it. And I have some of my best friends who I'm in bands with are in other bands that tour the world. And, you know, it's a business. Yeah. And so I'm very close to having the perspective of what the business side of it is like. You know, to your point, that scene, it's really what they're saying is, how do we put this in a box and package it and sell it, right? And I get that. I mean, there's a commercial aspect to music. You gotta, and you know, you gotta eat. So, but yeah, it is much easier when you are hyper focused like that. But again, the intersection of art and commerce, right? Like, you got to express yourself. You got to do what's true. And I've definitely had moments where, like, I've had people come up to me and they know me from a certain project, and they're like, when are you going to do, you know, when's that coming back? Or when are you doing? I'm like, oh, reminder, I should probably stay on track with some of these things. And, you know, people like something, I should do more of it. But then I don't know, maybe it's ADD. I'm like, oh, something shiny over here that I love, so I'm going to go chase that.
Well, I think it's really, I don't know. I was watching a movie, maybe both of you have seen it last night, called The Revenge of Analog. It's a documentary. It's based, I think, in Germany. It's about people who are kind of exhausted with the digital world and who are like going back into digital or analog photography and analog records and record making and, you know, 35 millimeter film and whatever else. for film. And the sort of protagonist of the documentary is this guy named Doc. And he similarly is like, he's a visionary. He's a creator, he's an artist, and he's constantly kind of buzzing from thing to thing. And it's, as I was watching it, I'm similar. Like, I work in a bunch of different mediums, and and I find it hard to dive deeply into just one. And I think that while I love that they're specialists in one thing that can just do that, I think that we need in the world like the variety of makers and feelers and expressors, and someone like you who's like experiencing the world through all of these different lenses all the time may seem a bit scattered to someone who's more narrow focused, but like we need all of that. I just believe that. It's kind of meta, but I think it's really powerful.
No, I agree with you. And I felt that, I was in your studio only once, but I definitely got that vibe, like, similar minded in pulling different media and different contexts and different textures together, but with the common thread of your personality.
Yep. Thank you for that. Thank you for seeing that. It does often feel very scattered, but it's fulfilling, like you say.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to our deep cut, because we could talk all day long about this stuff. And hopefully we will again someday over tea. But for now, the deep cut is a section that we do where we go a little bit deeper onto kind of like a specific and peculiar question.
Sure.
So our question that we have for you today on this episode is all about fun and games, because this is kind of the thread, so to speak, that we're working with. One of the most captivating games is The Amazing Race, where teams of 2 race around the world for $1 million. It requires a good sense of direction, and there will be speed bumps or challenges along the way, many of which are music related. So if you could pick one musical artist to run The Amazing Race with, who would it be and why?
Wow. Okay. Do they have to be living?
No, absolutely not.
Good question.
Absolutely
Okay.
not.
All right. I'm going to go with Prince.
Ooh.
Because I love Prince. Prince is probably my all-time favorite. But also, I just think it would be hilarious because the guy is so like elusive and reclusive, and he probably would have his own private like train or jet that would just like an $18 million private Concorde that would just get you where you needed to go in an instant, and then he would disappear and you wouldn't see him again, and you'd be like, goodbye. You won.
Amazing. That's brilliant.
So I feel like he'd be a great guy to pair with, because he'd have people who could get you where you needed to go real fast.
Yeah, he could probably find a way to circumvent the challenges of the game, make it a little more convenient.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What about you, Tanner?
So for me, right, I'm going to go with Shakira. And part of that pick is, well, first of all, she speaks Spanish, right? And I know that in this game, you're going to be in foreign parts of the world, and it's the largest spoken language in the world, and I don't speak Spanish. So I think that could be to our advantage. Another part is she's insanely fit.
Yeah.
And, these challenges are kind of grueling, and she performs barefoot live quite a bit. So to me, anyone that performs barefoot, that automatically means you're pretty tough. And a lot of these challenges or speed bumps involve, dance-related things that I wouldn't be good at, but maybe she'd be great at. And also, she's just incredibly likable. So when you play these games, you almost need to like form alliances with other teams to try to get you far. And who wouldn't want to work with Shakira?
Amen.
So that's
true.
That's my pick.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. How about you, Morgan?
Yeah, tell us, Morgan.
Well, what were you gonna say, Shakira?
Oh, I was gonna say in that case, Prince probably would be a disadvantage because I don't think he would ally with anybody. He wouldn't be an ally to anybody.
Your angle of this being sort of like stealth presence with all the connections and resources. I mean, yes.
Yeah, you would have secrets that no other team could contend with. So
that's the thing. There'd be a lot of inside info. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I Admittedly, I've never seen The Amazing Race, but I love Janelle Monáe very deeply. I don't know if you know Janelle Monáe, the artist, but she is so powerful, so brilliant, and so charismatic, and so prolific in like the variety of what she does. Her fashion sense is amazing. She's made film. She's obviously an amazing singer-songwriter and performer, also very strong physically, emotionally, spiritually. So I'm like, Janelle Monáe, I think, would be my person. Love her.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is like, you know, when you're traveling the world with these people, you want to envision that you yourself would have some kind of chemistry with them. And so I think, you and Janelle would, you'd be pals.
I think we would hang. Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be good.
Cool.
All right. Next up.
So now this brings us to our Mix It Up playlist, which will accompany the episode. We've asked Jon to submit 4 songs. I've submitted 4. Morgan has submitted 4. And we're going to add your birthday song to the mix. And listeners of this podcast, you can listen to the mix by clicking on the description of the Spotify episode. It will redirect you there, and you can listen to it on your ride home from work or going for a run or however you consume your music. So we each want to take a second and highlight one of our selections to the Mix It Up playlist. Jon, what song would you like to highlight?
So one of mine was I Can See Clearly Now by Johnny Nash. That's one. So sadly, my father passed away in 2012, but he was one of my musical idols. He was like the campfire strummer and singer of songs, and the guy who kind of introduced me to playing guitar, and also my just best friend, mentor, guiding light, you name it. Like, he was my guy. And that song always just makes me think of him, because we had like a little 45 of that when I was a kid, and he would put that on and kind of just bop around the house. And you can't, I don't know if you're familiar with the song, but it's really hard to be in a bad mood while you're listening to that song.
100%.
Yes. And I mean, like, I find that if moments of despair, I have literally put that song on and just put it on repeat.
Totally.
And somewhere around the 3rd or 4th time around, I feel myself coming out of whatever, I'm in. So that's a beautiful piece of music to me.
Stunning.
I love that.
It's such a gorgeous song, and sounds like your dad was a truly remarkable person, and like the levity and depth of that song. I love thinking of it filling your home and him just sort of bopping around and bringing cheer and goodness. I mean, it's one of my mom's favorite songs too.
Oh, cool.
And so I grew up listening to that song all the time. And similarly, I was just driving here listening to it because I was listening to some of the playlists, and this huge grin just sort of crept upon my face, completely like out of nowhere. So that's a real classic.
And there's something really, I think you'll agree, there's something really almost childlike about it.
Yes.
Like, I don't know who, I should research this, I almost don't want to, but I don't know who played the keyboard on it, but it sounds like they could be 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean that in an amazingly good way, like the way that children sort of have this untainted view of what they're creating. They don't know, no one's told them no yet. So they're just doing something very pure. And there's something in that song that feels childlike and pure to me.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to listen to that with that lens. Yeah, totally. Yeah. What about you, Tanner? What's yours?
So I'm going to highlight Mississippi by J.W. Francis, who I'm not sure if he's agreed to be on this podcast, and his episode might already be out by the time this one comes out. So it will be a little plug for him. But he's got a new album coming out on, I think it's October 11th is the release, Sunshine. But Mississippi is just I don't know, it's like a happy-go-lucky jingle jangle kind of banger. And JW kind of in the same way, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. He makes songs that make people happy. And you can go through his whole catalog. There's another song that I really love called Basketball, which that's my favorite sport. And, I have like positive reflections of that. And he's just a positive personality. So do yourself a favor and get into J.W. Francis.
Yeah, I don't know his stuff, but I will check it out.
Cool.
Right on.
Yeah. How about you, Morgan?
I chose a song called Chain Smoking by one of my favorite artists called Jacob Banks. And Jacob Banks is, I think, based in the UK, but grew up in different parts of the Caribbean and maybe Nigeria. Really stunning creator, deep resonant voice. And one of those voices that you hear and you're like, are you 700 years old or are you 27 years old? Like there's just this resonant, timeless, gorgeous voice. And he's a really, really cool singer-songwriter. Like his lyrics are super interesting. The album that this comes off of is called The Village, and very diverse music on that album in terms of song to song. Lots of different sounds from all over the world, but also rhythm and style. So Chain Smoking by Jacob Banks. That was my Mix It Up contribution.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Well, we're kind of getting to the end of our little journey here together, but I did want to take a moment to see if there's ways that you want to be in touch with folks, how you want people to connect with you. We have a couple things, which is your social media, which is Jon McCormack Music on Instagram, Wheel of Awesome on Instagram, the Wheel of Awesome on Facebook.
Yes.
Bitterpill.com.bandcamp.com. So listening to that music there. Bitter Pills Swallow on IG, Instagram, and Facebook. Yes. And Museum of Science on Spotify and YouTube. Did we miss anything?
No, that's it. And we didn't really delve into Bitter Pill too much, but that's a fun one to check out too. And I'm kind of started as like a side guy in that band, but have been doing a little more writing and getting more immersed in it. And that's a really fun project to check out too. So yes,
so awesome.
All
Love
of those.
Video of that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, what was the name of that track?
Jesus
pays
my tab.
Jesus gonna pay my tab. That was that was the first song I wrote for the band, and they were gracious enough to let me. I had an idea for a video, and they let me pursue it. And I won't, spoiler alert, but the idea is Jesus goes into a bar and he waves his hand over his water and turns it into wine. And somebody sees him doing that, and they're like, "Wait, can you do that for me?" And so pretty soon he's the most popular guy in the bar, and he's turning everybody's water into wine, and kind of goes from there. So
incredible.
Yeah, fun.
I love it so much.
No offense to anyone.
Are so on point in that as well. I just laughed and smiled and sang along. Let's see what else. I guess just like for listeners, this is the It's Music Time podcast, where It's Music Time podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you for listening. Listeners, send a comment, send a chat, send a question. We love interacting with you and hearing feedback.
Don't touch that dial. As promised, we have our encore performance of Museum of Science performing White Zinfandel. This is not a live performance. This is the studio track. But you'll be able to see visually of some very cool album cover artwork that you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube, and you'll be able to hear it on Spotify. But check out Museum of Science, and we can't wait for the new exhibit.
Thank you. Yeah, it drops on the 27th of this month, 4 days. And thank you guys so much, Tanner and Morgan. It's just a pleasure to be here and really feel like kindred spirits. And what an unexpected and joyful thing to just walk into your studio and meet you, and then suddenly here we are chatting about deep, meaningful things, and it's great.
We're so grateful. It is such a beautiful thing when the universe does that, and we don't take it lightly. It's a pretty awesome privilege to be able to chit chat about creativity and process and art and learn from brilliant people like you. So we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You are very welcome.
All right, listeners. Well, thank you again for tuning into the It's Music Time podcast. We love hearing from you. As I said, share this podcast with a friend. We appreciate your support. And until next time, stay cooler than cool. All the best. Bye, Jon.
Bye, Jon.
Cheers. Bye, guys.
Cheese.
Hey, could you show me where the beat is? Cletus is repeat this. Liver from the come and gonna cure our diabetes.
I really think I need this ever since I was a fetus. You had me at hello, data 7, you complete us.
More holes in your plan than the bombs and Jesus. While I'm drinking margaritas, playing cats with Derek Jeter. I'm kind of old and scary like a creature double feature. Sometimes I'm all smiles like a Walmart greeter.
We got the sweet ass bass with the backwards tilt. If you're biting these lines, you should be filled with guilt.
603's always preach about live free or die.
But you gotta cross the border if you wanna get high.
Used to rock the band Halen back in '84.
Now we got some gray hairs, but we're back for more.
With an old school style, it's so clean and so fresh. We're getting this coat just like David Koresh. Let me tell you what a real freak will do. I won't poke you, man, but I may take a Pikachu.
I'm a Mario Pro. I'm rolling with the Pikachu crew. I'm a true colors, but you can see them peeking through.
By the multiplier, I'm only here to procreate. Attention to this fire. I'm gonna check the notes you take.
Attention through the wire. I'm rolling through this open skate. Attention to this fire. Sit back and watch it procreate. I left a Jimmy Swiss, the Egyptian camel toe. The latest love his puppets and his Waytown flow.
On my right is the Greek kid. He's known as Bill X.
I got high with the spaceman underneath the T-Rex.
My name is Jon MC, but you can call me MC Food Court. Making beats with the boys in the studio tree
I shred the guitar. I like to sing with the masses.
Now what really knocked me out was the cheap sunglasses.
Music Time podcast is an independent passion project produced by Tanner Grover and Morgan Mitchell. The theme song for this podcast is by Ben Shepherd, the artist known as Yay Yay. Find him on Instagram at Yay Yay Music. Thanks for tuning in to the It's Music Time podcast. See you next time.